Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. I know I am literally the one standing in between you and lunch. Have a lot of content to go over, so I'll make sure I get to it, and we'll get through it real quick. About a month ago, when I started building out my deck, I had just received my 23andMe back. I don't know if anybody's done that yet. It's quite fascinating, yeah. And I thought it would be really cheesy to do my who am I and put my DNA up on a slide and then my unassigned make it customer success, you know, for all you guys. Kind of cheesy, but really, who am I? This is actually who I am. I'm a mom, a wife, a fur mom. I've been in customer operations or a customer-facing role over 20 years, kind of dating myself there, but I've been in companies from 30,000 globally to 30 people, and I've done everything that you can imagine in a customer-facing role. Currently, I've been at HelloSign for 2 years. I'm their vice president over their customer operations. I oversee their support, engineering support, customer success, and currently I am building out a professional services department. So today, we are here to talk about how to hire, onboard, and set your first, and this could be applied to any customer success manager up in your organization. Just going to do a quick poll here. How many of you have hired or will hire a CSM? Okay, wow, okay, cool. Has anyone here hired the wrong CSM before? Okay, yeah, I see lots of hands there too. And have you all created plans for setting them up for success in your org? A few hands, not as many. Okay, it's really important to set them up for success within your org, especially seeing customer success is such a new thought in a lot of organizations. So the good news is we're going to talk about these 3 things today. We're going to talk about interviewing for that proactive CSM, a simple approach to onboarding, and then I'm going to give you a recipe for organizational success. So this is probably incredibly familiar to you. Once upon a time, you had a customer, they broke up with you, yada, yada, yada. You think about what could I have done differently? How could I have seen this coming? And then you have that moment, and you're like, well, crap, I need customer success. So once you or your company comes to the moment where you determine you need customer success, sometimes it's a little bit hard to get started and to figure out, what do I do first? Of course, you post the job, right? You write the job description, you post the job, and then you get a ton of resumes, and you get a ton of support professionals who apply. You get a ton of anyone who has done a customer service role apply. How do you find the customer success manager, that proactive customer success manager? I love 3-pronged approaches, so everything I'm going to give you today is like a 3-step thing. First thing you have to do is determine your price of admission. What do I mean by price of admission? This is the price that, or the attributes that you look for before the candidate even comes in the door. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are a little obvious, some not as obvious. Step 1, you really want to make sure that they can have, or I have it as a B here, but a phone conversation. I know that sounds silly, but trust me, it's important. Especially these days when not many people pick up the phone. I asked my son to pick up the phone to call, in a pizza, and he almost cried. So it's important that you talk to them on the phone before you bring them in. Another thing that's really important is a writing sample. I request a writing sample before I bring anyone in for a face-to-face. This is important because in most SaaS companies these days, we have a one-to-many model. There's no way you're going to be able to be on the phone with every customer. You're going to want to do a lot of your communication in writing. So make sure you get that writing sample and make sure that they're able to represent you and your company appropriately in writing. Of course, you can see hand-baked brownies. I am a sucker for baked goods. So if someone knows how to bake, they get that extra points there. We're going to go ahead and hop into the next 2 steps. So they make it past the price to admission, and welcome aboard, or welcome in. You're here for your face-to-face. I have 3 activities that I do in every interview for customer success managers. Activity number 1, customer lifecycle mapping. I want the customer success manager candidate to go to the whiteboard and map out a customer lifecycle. Doesn't necessarily need to be HelloSign's customer lifecycle. It could be any customer lifecycle. What I'm looking for here is just that they get the idea of a customer lifecycle, they understand the stop points, and they understand how they can impact the various stop points. Activity number 2. If you are sitting in front of me, I really hope that you've gone to my website and looked at my product. We have a free trial, so I hope that you've signed up for a free trial and kind of understand what success would look like in our product. I asked the candidate, what data points would you need in order to diagnose the health of a customer? I don't expect for them to be 100% accurate. I'm really looking for critical thinking skills here, and that they have looked at my tool and they have looked at the product that we have. Activity number 3, you're going to notice this really pretty diagram I have here. I draw this out on the whiteboard, and I ask them, if all things are created equal, these 200 customers, they're in the same segment, they give us the same MRR, all things are created equal. Who are you going to contact first in this customer group? And then I pause. What I'm looking for is the individual who says, I'm going to contact the green customers, because I'm looking for that proactivity in their brain, that they think proactively. Human nature usually dictates you want to contact the red customers because they're going to churn. There's something going on, there's something wrong, but you have no value to add yet. You need to learn what the 25 customers up here in green are doing, then contact the other customers to bring them along on that journey. So, you now are done with your face-to-face interview, everything's gone great, and we're on to the presentation time. I make the candidate come in on a second day for the presentation. And I've been asked multiple times, why do you do this? Why don't you just do this all in one day? I'm a firm believer that anybody can be on point for one day, but show me that you can be on point for 2 days, 2 different days. I also believe that it's customer success management is a big representation of your company. So I want to see how people are under stress. So what we do is we have the candidate come back and do a mock customer onboarding. I have various key partners attend, generally about 6 people. And then after the presentation's over, we all provide feedback, both positive and constructive, just to see how the candidate interacts and responds with their key partners. So you found the one. Now we're going to talk about how to onboard them. I am a firm believer, just as you will with a customer, when you're onboarding a customer, you should have a plan when you onboard a new hire, right? And take them down the same kind of plan that you would a customer, to where they have milestones and things like that. Once again, we have a 3-prong approach here. We're just going to go over really quickly. And I call my step 1 my success brain dump. And this is just for the hiring manager to think through. So really define what success looks like on day 1 in this role. When the new CSM comes in, talk to them and let them know what success looks like for them. So they're not flying blind. So they know kind of what your expectations are, and they know what they need to learn and where they need to excel. Also, it's important for the hiring manager to understand what they'll need to master in order to achieve this, and set up the right agenda for them to be able to master this. And I can't reiterate the 3rd point enough, to start developing these key relationships early. Get them talking to their key stakeholders. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a couple more slides. And finally, also very important, be incredibly deliberate in defining when they should start talking to customers. Customer success managers come in and they want their customer group and they want to start making those dials and they want to start emailing. I ask them to pause for a minute and really first become experts on the product before they start reaching out. So just be really deliberate in defining when that magic moment will be for them. Now, this is actually a snippet of an onboarding schedule at HelloSign. So you can see here, it's very clear when you come in what you're going to be doing, who you're going to be with, what milestones you have, I also do, our onboarding is generally about 3 weeks. Of course, you're forever training because everything always changes constantly with the product, but the formal onboarding process is about 3 weeks. I break it out into themes, as you can see here. And week 1 is really, where's the bathroom, the HR stuff, how do you log into your product, and then week 2 is when you really get into the meat and potatoes of the product. And also, I always like to call out here to everyone who is a SaaS tool, if by the end of week 3, your customer success manager is not at, I don't want to say an expert, but at minimal, able to really navigate your product, you have to go back and look at your product and think about what the customer experience is. If you have a customer success manager who is receiving formal training for 3 weeks with your company and they can't make it through your product, in 3 weeks your product may be too complex. And then, of course, as in anything, I believe in iterating, thinking through a few things. Do you have a communication strategy with your customers? How does marketing communicate? How does sales? How does account management? Yada, yada, yada. Make sure that your customer success manager is in the know on the communication strategy and is helping define that communication strategy. Meetings, think through the meetings that you currently attend or that happen and that the CSM should be sitting in. Get them in those meetings so they can start building out those relationships. Think about customer sentiment, how you measure it, and make sure your customer success manager from day 1 has access to the customer sentiment numbers, such as your NPS, your CSAT, anything else that you do to measure sentiment. And then, of course, just your goals. Set up goals, and measure everything. I know that's kind of maybe a controversial thing, but definitely make sure you're measuring the right things early on. Now, we're almost done. It's almost lunchtime. So I promised we would get you a quick recipe for organizational success. Once again, sticking with the 3s. We're going to go ahead and hop into how to set that customer success manager up for success within your organization. All right, so this is no surprise. Strong relationships. That's your ingredient number 1. Identify the key stakeholders within your organization. Start building those relationships immediately, like yesterday. Typical stakeholders I have listed here are sales, marketing, product, support. Depending on the type of product you have, it could be engineering. Really think through the different people that your CSM are going to come into contact with and that they should have a rapport with, and start helping them facilitate meetings and building that rapport quick. Strong alignment. That's the key ingredient number 2. Really be clear with the stakeholders for customer success on what customer success will deliver and will not deliver. So get that early on, what they will deliver and what they won't deliver, and then identify the overlap and who owns what. If you set people up for success really early in the beginning by making sure everybody knows what they own and that communication is there, it helps down the line to where we don't have any friction. Also, I say here, set up expectations early and often. And what I mean by often is all of our products change. Our customer bases evolve. So you're going to need to iterate on these expectations as your product changes. Nothing is ever static in our world. So we have to continuously look at what everything is and evolve. Final ingredient, immediate and visible wins. It's really simple. Get your CSMs in front of your organization with immediate and visible wins. What could this look like? Think through exposure in your company. Do you have a company-wide meeting? If you do, see if you can get them in front of there talking about great conversations they've had with the customers, churn saves, things like that, but immediate and visible to where the company starts having those aha moments and really understands the value of customer success and why they're there. It's our responsibility to educate the organization on the value of customer success. And if we don't have those immediate and visible wins, it makes our job a lot more difficult. Other things you can do is a company-wide newsletter, also sales meetings. I don't know how many of you in here have a weekly sales meeting, forecast meeting. Okay, great. Your customer success managers should be in those meetings. Get them in there. Have them hear what's coming up the pipeline, who's closing, how can they partner with them. Show sales the value of customer success. All right. So, in summary, the 3 things you should do when you go back, sticking with that theme of 3. Look at your hiring model. Are you really testing for the proactivity you need from your customer success managers? 2, construct your onboarding model to include success milestones. Never leave your customer success managers hanging, your new hires hanging. Let them know what success looks like and help them understand when they've reached that milestone. And finally, be deliberate in setting your customer success manager up for success within your organization with those immediate and visible wins that I spoke about. And that's it. Almost time for lunch.
Thank you, Miranda. So if you have any questions, raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over.
So I can just talk loudly. So one of the things you mentioned is that a lot of people that you get who apply for these roles may have had some kind of customer-facing experience previously, but do you generally require them to have had that in technology? Because I feel like a lot of the things you described around your interview process would sort of push people towards that area.
No, that's a really good question. I don't require that. I do like that. I even call it out on the job description. Technology experience is a huge plus. I think it definitely is an easier transition for people if they've done it before. What I will say is your first few hires, I would almost require it. And then after you have a nice baseline built with some strong customer success managers that can take a newbie under their wing, then, if the person is capable of getting there, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah.
How do you feel about hiring customer success managers that have sales background and want to switch into customer success?
Once again, I don't have a problem with that, as long as I have the strong foundation of customer success already built out with a few key individuals that know how to do customer success. I have no problem with bringing people in from any department as long as they demonstrate that they have the ability to flex that muscle in their brain from being sales, or reactive to more of an analytical player that can look at key trends and help drive that value. Yes?
Along the same lines, do you have any recommendations for the interview process to identify proactivity in an individual versus reactivity?
Sure. So the one picture I showed you guys with the green, yellow, red, that's one thing that I use just to see how people immediately, do they go towards that reactive mode? And if they do, are they able to then flex and change their brain to think about it more proactively? Also, customer success managers, I've often said, are pipeline feeders and presenters. So they're constantly feeding products pipeline with product feedback, sales pipeline with upsells, marketing with references. So I want to see someone with an analytical brain that can identify trends and know when something could potentially be an upsell, know when something could be a magical product feedback. And if you can demonstrate that in an interview, that's gold too.
What approach do you take for hiring an entry-level position straight out of college? There is no customer success degree to go get. Where do you look and how do you try to vet them out? With the computer science or English?
Yeah. So are you asking a brand new department as well, or just in general?
If you were building a team and you were going to hire an associate level, entry-level customer success position, you're looking for kids coming out of college.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
Doers. I love it when people can think and think big. but I need the get shit done kind of mentality, like willing to, yes, you have a degree and that's great, but are you okay with rolling up your sleeves and getting in there and understanding stuff? I mean, that's really huge to me. I will take a lot of chances on people, and I worked at Lending Club for a couple of years and scaled their support from like 5 to 50, and I've hired a ton of people over the past years. And that's the big thing. That's a big driver of success for me, is that get shit done mentality, degree or not. Yes?
Do you have any insight into how you see sort of career planning for customer success managers in your organization? Like as they develop them as a great CSM, what's the next step?
So that's currently what I have been thinking about for HelloSign. Of course, there's always the management track, but I believe customer success managers can go on to do anything in an organization, from product to marketing to anything, because they're almost doing it all already. They just need to hone in on a particular skill set. So I'm indirectly not answering your question wholeheartedly, because I have my manager of customer success back there and I don't want him to leave me. But I believe that they could do anything within the org. Yes?
What's the favorite interview question that someone has asked you in an interview that tells you that you're a good customer success manager?
That they've asked me. Well, I mean, really, I think it's around how, as a company, we approach our customers. So I think customer success managers know that you need company-wide buy-in for customer success to be successful. Even though customer success is a department, we've heard this probably a dozen times over the past 2 days. If a customer success manager comes in an interview and asks me what the company philosophy is on customer success, and how does everybody approach the success of a customer, I know that they're thinking as a customer success manager versus a reactive supporter. Yes?
I want to more on the onboarding side. I'm hoping that you have some tips on what is onboarding. One of the challenges I ran into with my team was they had a huge territory, many clients, and they were new, and I like the fact that you said, hold on to reaching out and waiting for that time is right. But what have you done to introduce all the clients to the new representative and make contact in a way that is quick but manageable, so they're not loaded with calls and emails? And I'm trying to see if you been able to develop a good strategy for that onboarding process.
So honestly, I don't have a great strategy for you, but if I think about it and put my problem-solving hat on, I would bucket out the customers, of course, and then look at each customer where you could drive some kind of value and turn that into an introduction, and do it in a mass way. So if everybody's at this phase of the usage in your product, I would say, oh, did you know we have this feature? By the way, this is your new CSM, Andrew. He's going to be working with you from here on out. You know what I mean? That way they open it, you're giving them value, and you're doing an introduction. And then have the CSM, depending on your model, reach out and set up calls as they can.
Right. Thanks, Miranda. We're all out of time for the session. Lunch is about to start. If you have any further questions for Miranda, I'm sure you'll find her. Thank you so much, Miranda.